When you carry this axe, you carry us all with you. And my axe! Gimli, what are you doing here? You are in the wrong medieval universe. Go over there and save Frodo and the ring. Yes, 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 my precious. How to Train Your Dragon came out in 2010 and comes from the people that brought us Lilo and Stitch, and also one that was involved in The Wild Robot. You robots need alcohol to function. If you haven't seen The Wild Robot, oh boy, that movie's a lot sadder than I expected. Anyway, it's based on a novel by Cressida Cowell, who has no relation to James Cromwell because they're entirely different spellings. If you have not seen How to Train Your Dragon, it's a DreamWorks animated adventure that involves a boy named Hiccup. No, really, Hiccup. That's our hero. We have a man named after a particular tick that people have when they just get so nervous and they I don't know why I decided to go all southern hickish there, but nevertheless, he is voiced by Jay Baruchel, or Baruchel, however you say it. I do have to say that I'll get into it, actually, in a little bit. It's about how I felt about some of the voice acting. But he has a father named Stoic, played by Gerard Butler. At least Gerard Butler got to do his own accent. Because boy, oh boy. Boy, he is so Scottish. So goddamn Scottish. It's insane. Sparta! So, yes, basically we have a little Viking hamlet called Berk. They're, on a weird island. They're going to ride it all night long. And they have sheep, they have animals, they have all the means, and they also have a bunch of dragons. In a movie called How to Train Your Dragon. Wow, color me shocked. Then it is revealed that all these Vikings basically train to kill dragons. Well, Vikings have been killed by the hundreds, but dragons have been killed by the thousands. And after landing a dragon in a forest, Hiccup happens to just go there, sees it, is going to go for the kill, but just can't do it. This does not look like he is trying to kill or stab the dragon. This does not look like that. But that being said, eventually a bond grows and develops, and they find out there is a true evil out there. And maybe, while not all dragons are bad, there are some that must be put down through the power of friendship. Yeah, that's pretty much How to Train Your Dragon right there. So that's basically the non-spoiler section. There is a live-action version that is coming out in just about a week and a half as of this recording. And I decided to rewatch this. I have not actually seen the sequel in full, so I will have to watch that. I don't think I'm going to watch the third one before I see the live-action version, but I'll say this much. After rewatching this and seeing the trailer for the live-action, they seem to have captured the tone pretty well. So Jonah Hill also is in this. America Ferrera, I forgot that she, had quite the interesting career before she, had quite the role in Barbie. You also have Craig Ferguson, not Turd Ferguson, which is a funny name. T.J. Miller, not T.J. Hooker, Sheriff Officer T.J. Hooker, and his partner McMillan and wife. Kristen Wiig, as well as David Tennant. So the movie cost $165 million, which is a lot. A lot. That is a lot of money. It did make $43.7 million in its opening. It did make $217.5 million for U.S. gross and did end up making nearly $500 million worldwide. You can adjust for inflation, but it's been 15 years, so you might add a few more million onto that. But still, a roaring success, and it ended up... Well, okay, I'm going to be honest about my criticisms. A lot of the dialogue is pretty stilted. Some of the delivery isn't all that great. Jay's delivery of some of the dialogue isn't great. I'm not saying even he's a bad actor, but just sometimes I find him to be a little bit of a protagonist that's hard to really root for. But the bond between him and the dragon Toothless does carry this film a lot farther. Also, there is the father-son dynamic, where they are both very beneficial to the village, but in different ways. It ends up being a fun romp with a little more heart than I expected. It's not a perfect movie. It has its issues, has a lot of stereotypical stuff that it falls back on, but nevertheless. So Astrid is the girl that he likes that eventually forms into a romance a little bit later on. There are various dragons. There's the Zipperback with two heads, or the Zippleback. The Monstrous Nightmare, which is a huge, huge dragon. And there's also Night Fury, that is what Toothless is. And There's some good action sequences here. There is a point where, in capturing a Night Fury, or, trapping it, and it falls into the forest, a lot of destruction happens, and basically Stoic says to Hiccup, every time you step outside, disaster follows. It's how I feel every time I try to leave for work. It just feels like disaster follows me everywhere. Or disaster is just all around us, and we must shield ourselves and stay away from society. So, eventually, he does get to Toothless, can't kill it, and realizes that the reason they can't fly out of this particular, cave area, or this, dip with a lake, is because it part of its back tail, the left side of his tail, is taken off. So he finds a way to make a new one, makes it out of good material, doesn't work. Then he makes it out of leather, it turns out to actually work a whole lot better. He gains his trust, the nice bond being formed while he is doing dragon training with various people, including Astrid. I do have to say this reminded me of a discount Hunger Games, the more that this went on, because they had various dragons trapped. There's this dragon book with all these other dragons, and extremely dangerous kill. It turns out that, these dragons are actually serving a darker purpose, shall we say, feeding this giant volcano dwelling dragon, shall we say. And that ends up leading us to basically the second half of this movie, after Astrid eventually discovers that Hiccup has the dragon and won't kill it. She finds out why. Stoic eventually realizes, hey, you need to kill this dragon. What the hell's going on with you? All this stuff's going on. And then eventually Stoic and Craig Ferguson's character and various others go off to try and find the dragon's nest after Astrid and Hiccup and Toothless inadvertently find it. And then they see what's going on. And let's just say the besieging of this particular, mountain, cavernous area is not exactly going to go well, because this giant dragon is fucking pissed. Really, really fucking pissed. And it decides to just run roughshod through everybody. The thing is just before that, they do end up capturing Toothless when Toothless tries to come back, or gets out of the, the area it was in because his tail's fixed. Gets there, tries to save Hiccup, but eventually that leads to him leading them to this particular cave area. And then Hiccup, Astrid, and the various other goofs have to team up. These goofs that saw Hiccup as kind of a ridiculous guy, but also he learned so many ways to communicate with dragons, and that not all dragons are bad, they're just misunderstood. Oh Lord, please don't let dragons be misunderstood. Oh, and also various dragons have a shot limit as far as their fireballs and stuff like that. I used to have a mouse named Fireball. She would have been fed to the science teacher's snake had I not gotten her. No, that's not a euphemism. She was a sweet animal. I think she only lived about a couple more years. That being said, the dad does end up, Dad and, the various Vikings are, things aren't going all that well because of this giant dragon. And then, Toothless and various others get there. They are going to, do some rescuing. They're on all these dragons, all these kids are, and they're trying to, stop this big dragon. It relies on smell and, hearing. It does not, its eyesight isn't all that great, and also it's rather big, so its mobility isn't that great. And there was one thing they found out a little bit earlier. Just before Toothless got captured, he breathed a little bit of fire into one of these small dragons, and it didn't react all that well. They're very vulnerable on the inside. More on that here in a bit. And they end up taking shots at the wings, and then it's wait a second, let's see how those wings can fly. So they go up, they're doing this big battle, and he's doing the Night Fury attacks, the flash attacks, and stuff like that. But eventually, fire just goes all around us. The fire was all around us. And it ends up burning the tail. And then, basically, the tail is going up in smoke. All this stuff's just absolutely... Well, it's looking very, very bleak, shall we say. Now, they do end up killing the giant dragon, but... They crash back down to Earth, and that's it. That's it. Show's over. Our hero's dead. The dragon's dead. Oh, wait, no. The dragon shielded him and pretty much protected him and saved him. Toothless is fine. Everybody learns to live with dragons. Oh, yes, and Craig Ferguson's character was missing a hand, so he had a hookup for a hand. Well, let's just say Hiccup ends up losing his leg. So he has like a hook-like thing for his leg, and it's probably going to modify it and stuff again. I believe does for the second movie from what little I remember of seeing, the clips of it. And that's it. And there was one line that ran through the whole thing, like in the beginning. There was rap, as our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said, about how, Hiccup, we need, less of this, but you just pointed to all of me. And like, oh, well, there's a problem with this. You just pointed to all of me. And then the dad eventually says, after the dad and him bond, it's actually kind of a sweet moment. He says, turns out our village just needed more of this, but you just gestured to all of me. It's a nice running theme through the whole movie. And again, some of the dialogue is rather cheesy, some of it's a little silly, but I decided to, rewatch to see if it still holds up, and it mostly does. It gets B+. It gets a B+. It's fun. It's breezy. Dialogue isn't all that great. We'll see if the sequel holds up or if the sequel kind of goes a little bit down. And we'll see how the live-action version goes. Agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe. Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Renthlan, and until we meet again, happy trails to you.